All right.
Oh, you think you wanna start shit? I ain't even from this world, just call me Martian. I could kick you down a hole just like a Spartan. Fuck with me and you will never be pardoned. Yeah. Push myself to my limits, I'm in it to win it. Forget the beginning, it's now that you're living. Don't be forgiven, don't fear what you're missing. A mind like a killer, you need to be driven. 10 steps ahead, you prepared in the head? Think this shit through or just wing it instead? I'm tired of working so hard for this. I'm hungry as fucking fucked up in the head. I'm sick of these lazy bums, they all get nothing done, waiting to have someone take care of everyone. I don't need anyone, this shit ain't any fun. It takes hard work to make yourself a penny, son. And I will not be the one with regrets, and I will not hear the doubt or the threats, and I'm not one to ever forget. So what's the fuck out while I'm coming for you next? Shit. I ain't even from this world, just call me Martian. I could kick you down a hole just like a Spartan. Fuck with me and you will never be pardoned. Yeah. Oh, you think you wanna start shit? I ain't even from this world, just call me Martian. I could kick you down a hole just like a Spartan. Fuck with me and you will never be pardoned. Yeah. It's been like driving me crazy, these people complacent. Too many are lazy but wanna see changes. You can all hate me, you're slaves to these wages. You need to be crazy to head out for greatness. Don't want excuses, I wanna see movement. Just watch like a student and see how they do it. Need some improvement, we all need solutions. So be the one who could just sack up and do it. You ain't never gonna stop me, I'll be found. Climb my way to the top like a rebound. I'ma be the one to pop with a new sound. I'ma be the one to drop MCs down. Off in the hills with this shit. Think that I'm lost but I'm bound to this bitch. Think that I'm not what I say that I is. Think that I got what they need when I spit. Start shit. I ain't even from this world, just call me Martian. I could kick you down a hole just like a Spartan. Fuck with me and you will never be pardoned. Yeah. Oh, you think you wanna start shit? I ain't even from this world, just call me Martian. I could kick you down a hole just like a Spartan. Fuck with me and you will never be pardoned. Yeah.
There is a sixth dimension beyond that which is known to man. A multiverse as vast as eternity, as timeless as the Infinity Gems. It is the middle ground between the big two and the indie publishers, between sci-fi and mysticism, and it lies between the pages of the reader's imagination. At the summit of entertainment, the dimension of comics, where a humble service is held. We call this service the Gospel of Comics.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to the Gospel of Comics. I am your host of Church of Failure, and with me, as always, is my trusty co-host, Ayrton McCartney. How you doing this week, buddy?
Doing good, man. I haven't heard that introduction in a while now.
Yeah, I know, right?
I wasn't sure you were going to remember how to do it. I thought I was going to have to do it for you.
I mean, you never know. But with us in the virtual studio today, the reason we have a special episode of the Gospel of Comics, we're joined with David of Vivid Publishing. How are you doing this week, sir?
Hey, doing good. Thank you for having me.
Hey, thank you for coming on. Anything you guys want to discuss before we get into Dreamkeepers? Any questions? Any comments? Any introductions anybody wants to make? You want to tell the people who you are, David?
Sure. My name is David Lilly. Me and Liz have been making our own comic Dreamkeepers since 2006, and we're getting ready to release Volume 5. And we've had a lot of misadventures on the way, and we've kind of started our own publishing company to get it out there, and it's going good. And we're having a good time. It's exciting, and yeah, I'm happy to talk with you guys.
So Liz is
Awesome.
your partner, your artist. Who is this?
is my wife, partner, artist, writer. We kind of do everything together. We bounce the writing back and forth. Typically, I'll do a rough draft, and she'll give me some critique. And sometimes, if we're out for walks, we'll just be talking and joking around together, and we'll come up with fun dialogue that we jot down and use later. So we do the
you
writing
guys share a
together.
toothbrush too?
No, we have separate toothbrushes for
Oh.
now, but I'm thinking to create a more fruitful creative union. It might be good to merge those at some point.
You probably should. And
Get a
it's more
double-ended
cost-effective,
toothbrush?
too.
Like a toothbrush
Yeah.
with a head on both sides.
Well, that'd be a show. I'd have to live stream that.
That sounds disgusting. if you Ask me.
Go join his OnlyFans.
I don't care.
So you can watch two people brushing their teeth at the same time.
That's right. That's right. Hey, Ayrton, stop giving away the game. We were going to do that. So,
Yeah, but I don't want to.
as I've already stated, well, I mean, I don't remember asking what you wanted. That seems like a stretch.
Yeah,
But
that's
as we discussed, we're here to discuss Dreamkeepers Volume 5 Assassin's Claw, as this is a preview. You cannot yet purchase this just now, but you can take a look at the campaign and what all it entails. Now, Volume 5, you're saying, is a 500-page omnibus hard... Oh, no. That's something you can unlock. Never mind. But first off, that's my first critique of your campaign. You're luring me in with 500 pages, and you're wait. This is an omnibus of everything.
I'm pretty sure we're going to unlock it, though, because previous campaigns, Volume 4, we had a really good campaign on Kickstarter a few years back when 4 released. So if we can get anywhere in that ballpark, the omnibus is almost a certainty, because I'd set the goal right at the level where if we have the money to print it, boom, we're going to print it.
So that actually, you mentioned Kickstarter, and that leads me into my first question. I thought we'd be a little later in the game on this, but let's just jump into it. What recently happened with Kickstarter?
Well, the short answer to that is I don't know. We were planning to do Volume 5 on Kickstarter because we've got a long history on Kickstarter.
Right.
If you check out our Kickstarter profile, we've been doing campaigns on there since, 2012, 2013. And we've got every single campaign we've ever done on Kickstarter has been successful. We've been making some pretty good money for that platform. But turn around and, I'm getting the Volume 5 campaign ready, and suddenly I notice our identity has been de-verified. So you think, oh, well, that's weird. Maybe, who knows why that happened? Maybe it's automatic. We've had a lot of back channel pushback against us from various other places in the past, but I like to try not to be paranoid and just assume, okay, it's probably just a website glitch. Time to get re-verified. So you go to that.
Instead of putting chemicals in the water that turn the freaking frogs gay.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Like the frogs are. But funny thing, I go to get re-verified. I punch in the info, and their website gives me a very strange error message. It says, "Oh, we will not upload this information." It's not like, "Oh, it didn't work" or something weird like that. It's just like, "Nope, this website's not submitting information at this time."
Fuck and you,
so
Kickstarter.
Yeah, so I crawl through their the maze of customer service where you start out with like, oh, do you need help? Try reading these articles. Did they help? No. Try reading these articles. Did they help? And so I just submit a support ticket, but time goes on and it's been like a week and they never reply to my support ticket. Finally, at that point, I'm like, okay, I've been thinking about Indiegogo a little bit anyways. I was considering being unfaithful and trying out the hot new platform. So, okay, I'm going to try it out. Don't really have much of a choice now. They finally got back to my support ticket and they did not address anything I asked them about. They just did a copy paste thing where they were like, oh, make sure you spelled your address correctly.
Oh, thanks for that, Kickstarter.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's like,
thanks, guys.
To come up with that.
You didn't even tell me to turn my underwear around.
I tried different
out.
browsers too. And yeah, I tried turning the computer on and off. I tried, different browsers and all sorts of stuff.
Did you make sure the computer was plugged in when you were typing? That's a common mistake.
That might have been it. So, anyways, whether it's
a common mistake.
Whether it's due to, like, for some reason, staff being bitter behind the scenes, or whether it's just due to an inglorious computer glitch, we're concluding our relationship with Kickstarter and moving over to Indiegogo. So far, that site is functional, which puts it cut above the competition, apparently.
Okay.
That's good.
So, no, I know a lot of creators go straight for Indiegogo. It seems to be the hashtag Comicsgate platform of choice. From what I understand, Kickstarter is just very picky about who they allow on their comics platform. They're very heavy in the gatekeeping scene, and as you said, you've had some pushback from some outside forces. Joseph McKeever in the chat says,
Yeah, it hasn't.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, it hasn't. The pushback hasn't specifically been from like any Kickstarter people or anyone in that scene, but you mentioned actually in the pre-show, like, this your comic's kind of furry. Can we talk about that? And it's like, yeah, we can talk about that. But that's actually where a lot of the more recent pushback has come from. Is we used to go to Anthrocon every year. That was one of our big conventions where we had a really well-established reader base, a bunch of cool people that we like to meet there, and after we put out a certain petition, suddenly we noticed that we were not capable of getting tables there anymore.
Now,
and
what was that
the same
petition?
applied to.
I might ask.
How much of a horrible show do you want?
That's what I'm pouring my second shot of whiskey. So go ahead.
All right, you're gonna need it. You're probably gonna need a few more. Have you ever heard of, or are you familiar with, something called the Zeus Sadism chat leaks?
Oh, the Kara the Wolf stuff. Yeah,
we're familiar with those.
Yeah.
The Kara the Wolf stuff. And that was bad, and that was only the tip of the iceberg.
I'm pretty heavy in the lore keeping of the commentary and the IBS community on that side of the internet. I just don't play over there because they're all meanie pants. I just kind of archive everything and keep my thoughts to myself because, well, I don't want those people to go after me and make me famous. But yes, I'm very familiar with the Kara the Wolf.
What's your heart for? Bless your heart for archiving, because if these people had their way, it would go into the memory hole, and I think some stuff should be retained for posterity.
Yeah, absolutely. People
Anyways,
should never forget that Shane Dawson defended Kara the Wolf. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, and that opened my eyes to a lot of stuff, because up until this point, I was just kind of going to furry conventions. We were selling our comic. We had a lot of readers that really loved it, and it was great. And then suddenly I see this Zeus Sadism chat leak that's just it's like a bucket of nightmares. If you don't know what that's about, you can look it up later. I don't want to go into detail.
Don't look it up, folks.
Yeah, just ask me personally. I'll tell you, and you never have to know.
So I was trying to think, though. It's like, okay, we're kind of in this community. We have a really well-known comic that a lot of people know about us. Am I pulling people into these conventions? Am I exposing them to a bunch of creeps and weirdos? And there's other like convicted pedophiles that are running all ages events at some of these conventions. And so I decided, hey, it seems like the furry community has a little bit of a problem. I'm going to do my best to help them fix it. Let's make a common sense suggestion. I know there's people on this political side in the community and that political side, and a bunch of people in there, of course, call us Nazis and monsters, because one time I drew a snow leopard of Milo Yiannopoulos because it was hilarious, but they did not seem to think it was quite so funny. Anyways, that
image got passed around quite a bit, didn't it?
Yeah, it was fun. It kind of popped. I pride myself on.
I feel like I remember seeing some sort of like quote unquote furry art of him. I'm not sure if it was that one or not, though.
I saw it superimposed on an Apple advertisement for the Apple Snow Leopard IS.
Maybe that's what I saw.
Nice.
I saw it memeified.
I like to pride myself on. Yeah, I like to say that I've officially drawn the most controversial snow leopard in the history of art. But the thing is, after that, there was a bunch of. Yeah, I know. But, so we had the usual culprits being like, oh, you're a Nazi, you're alt-right. It's like, well, no, not really, but you're not going to ever listen, so there we go. But we were still able to go to conventions. We still saw people at tables and sold stuff. It wasn't an issue until I did this petition, is what apparently closed the door for us. And the petition was to prohibit people who have convicted child rapists and puppy rapists. If they've been convicted in the court of law, we're not talking internet gossip or anything. if they've been convicted, how about we don't permit them to attend all ages events? That was my petition. As soon as I put that out there,
how dare you?
And milk
no more
toast as you can
convention
get.
for us.
How dare you, sir?
I dared, and apparently that was just a little beyond the pale. And the funny thing is, people weren't even willing to explain why they didn't want it. Like, they refused to implement it. They, threw us under the bus. Back channel, we have access to none of the conventions we used to go to. But it's like, well, why don't you guys like this petition? Could you at least explain it? They won't. They don't. It's weird.
And how much did that affect your bottom line? Like, when it comes to pushing your comic, did you lose any of your core fan base, or was it kind of like a flash in the pale?
Most of our readership, fortunately, we've got this. When people get into the series, they really stay in the series. We have a very sticky franchise. So most of them they follow us, they watch our updates.
Please don't use sticky as an adjective after we were just talking about the
Whoops. Loyal. Let's use the word loyal. a very loyal fan base. I mean, unfortunately, though, a lot of people just shop at these conventions. So Anthrocon, we typically pull in between 3 to 5K. That's just gone. So I would say we're down a significant chunk of our revenue.
Right.
But since we got booted out of Anthrocon, we started our own online convention. And especially this last year with COVID, it's called CouchCon. So that has just exploded.
You guys were ahead of the curve on that one. Then, like, you were already planning on doing it, and then it became necessity.
That's why it went so well, because Anthrocon, they cast us into the ocean. So basically, I had an arc already built by the time the flood came in. We were sitting pretty. When everyone was like, "Oh, COVID, what are we going to do with our events?" I was like, "Well, I've got an online convention that I've been running for about a year. Perhaps I will let more artists join me." And it blew up. And yeah,
that's excellent.
That's awesome.
So now that we've gone through the trials and tribulations, let's actually look at the campaign real quick.
Yeah, sure.
So we've got Dreamkeepers Volume 5 already alluding to the idea that you've got 4 volumes ahead of this. Now, are they all collected in hardcover?
So far, we've only printed them and published them in softcover, and that's one of the reasons I'm really hyped about this, because I would love to put them in hardcover. Okay. Volumes 1 through 4 would be collected into a nice big hardcover, and each book is between 100 and like 140 pages, so they're pretty hefty already.
Now let's talk about that, because I've glanced over your website. Obviously, in the time that it put this show together, there's no way that I could have kept up with your complete story and worked my job. So you'll forgive me on that. But you've been running this once. You've been running this as a webcomic for how long now?
Since 2006, I believe.
Okay, so you've got some credentials up there with the big names when it comes to longevity in the webcomic community. You guys were around right around the time that it was actually feasible to have a personal website with a webcomic.
Yeah, it's been interesting sort of seeing the world shift around me as, I keep on just drawing comic pages because it's what I love to do. But It was weird because it went from like, oh, everyone visits your website, that's how you have a webcomic. And then suddenly it was the social media age, and it's like, nope, nobody goes to websites. You've got to have a presence on.
Well, first it was websites. First it was websites, and then you had to have that RSS feed. And then you had to have the social media presence. Like, it seems like it took place in threefold, because I followed that same progression with Control-Alt-Delete. And it honestly feels like that social media presence, it works best for strip comics. It doesn't work for overarching stories as well. Because nobody's going to dig through a Twitter profile for 300 pages.
And I actually have I think that it also hurt webcomics. There was like a golden age for webcomics earlier in the internet when daily updates, as long as you had anything and you updated every day, it would probably get a big following. Right. But social media, I think it totally replaced that model, because now people can get a dopamine hit every day much easier just by arguing about who is a Nazi. So that's what they do, because it's lower hanging fruit.
Right. Or their dopamine hit from being called a Nazi like me.
Yeah. So it's weird. As the internet has changed, the internet has rewarded shorter and shorter and shorter attention spans. So pulling people into a long form story kind of gets more challenging with time, especially because we've transitioned into what I consider to be a third age of the internet. It went websites, then it went the social media age, and I've decided to start calling now the closed social media age, which is social media is the only place you can really be to get traction, but the gatekeepers have come down very hard with the algorithms. So organic growth, and it's not even always based on political stuff or grudges or pettiness, although there's plenty of that. But even without that stuff, they just turned off the switch for organic growth because they realized, hey, why would we let people build up an audience if we could force them to pay for advertising to do the same thing? So it's at this point, it's really, if you're not a huge established corporation or a big name that's been in the industry, it's an uphill fight to get any kind of traction.
Right. No, I completely agree with that, and it's always kind of a slow burn to rebuild or build on any social media presence. I think that a lot of the problems, like I love the webcomic format. Like I said, Control Alt Delete is one of the things that I looked forward to when I was a lot younger. And I mean, you had other things like Sinfest and Write and Shine, and what was it, XCYKD
what was
or
the
something?
The Pokemon spoof one. What was that one?
I don't know about a Pokemon spoof one.
Slightly Damned.
It's like it's like putting the game mechanics in like real life. So it's like you've probably seen the comic where it's like the kid, like the main character, like player character, puts out like a level 100 Charizard against like a level 5 Weedle, and then the thing just dies. I don't know. Gets charged to crisp. I don't know.
It's funny. It's funnier than in your head than in real life.
It is.
I think that's one downside for me. Spending so much time making comics is I haven't had as much time to read as I would like.
So you've been putting this comic together since 2006. When did you start collecting it?
2006 actually 2006 is when we first published volume 1, but I was working on it before then. In fact, the concept goes back to when I was in college. Originally, I was developing this to be a pitch for an animated TV show, but we had some guy from Hollywood visit our college, and I learned about how that process works. And especially at that time, if you went to Hollywood and you pitched your show, if you were lucky, they would steal it from you and maybe throw you like $5,000, and then you had no creative control whatsoever. And I happened to kind of start to really like the idea I was putting together. So I thought, hey, how can I get this established the way I want it to be? How can I tell the story with some authenticity without having executives come in and make it stupid? So I thought, I know I can do a comic. I've been doing comics since I was 12, so I'll just start off with a comic, and I never stopped.
Okay. All right. So you've been publishing it as a webcomic and a physical comic, like unilaterally?
Yeah, we had a website up 2006. That's when I started publishing the first printed collection with Vivid Publishing, our at the time little publishing company. And I just kept on going. And after we had books out, I figured, I want people to be able to read it for free, because if they don't want it, I don't want them to find out after they paid $20 for a hard copy,
Well, people are more apt to recommend something even if it isn't their fancy if they don't feel burned by it. That's one thing that I've noticed about the preview age and the digital age and stuff like that. When you get like a healthy helping of something and you can assess whether or not you want to spend your money on it, people are more apt to not only open their wallets wider, but they're also more apt to recommend something even if they wouldn't buy it.
Yeah. To that effect, we've even had a lot of piracy of our stories in the past years, and I never thought it was a bad thing. It's like, hey, they're sharing it around for free. It's kind of like marketing for me. And then I figure if people read it, and if they want a physical copy, at some point they'll get one. So I didn't want to freak out, trying to run down every pirate in the ocean.
Well, I mean, and there's no point in that. Like, it's petty after a little while. I mean, you're losing more.
You're not going
Like
to East India Trading Company those bitches.
Well, your time is more valuable than the amount of money you lose to piracy in the grand scheme of things. Like that's
Right.
Yeah.
that's just the
And if
the
I'm
grand
hunting
breakdown.
pirates, the only way I'd want to hunt pirates is if I'm dressed for the part and I've got an actual ship. Short of
Right.
that, I'd rather be drawing.
Right, and a scimitar and all that good stuff. Now you've actually
Yeah, exactly.
you've got it set up on your campaign where you're using BackerKit for your delivery, which I've always thought was kind of a smart move, especially for people who are newer in the crowdfunding scene. You guys obviously have been doing this for a while, but
Yeah.
like when you're doing your first one or two campaigns, it's definitely smart to consider using a fulfillment service. That way, you don't have to worry about the logistics of figuring out extra shipping and working that into your campaign first and foremost. The fulfillment service will handle all of that. Now, on the flip side of that, you're only charging at a base level what your campaign is back to. Like, you back at the $40 or $80 tier here, that's all you're going to get charged initially, and then BackerKit is going to contact you and say, hey, this is how much you're going to owe shipping. But on Big Point, if you scroll down here to the bottom, you've got these nifty little charts here that help people figure out what they can expect to pay in shipping.
Ooh, I love charts.
Yeah, and so I got the chart direct from our fulfillment company, and that's one of the reasons I actually wanted to go through a fulfillment company, because we've used BackerKit before, but I always just mailed everything from our apartment or from our house, and it's a ton of work. But I realized too, it's difficult to estimate shipping when you're just one guy and you're doing everything. At every point, you're drawing the story, writing the story, getting the packaging materials, and so a lot of people, especially our European customers, they were paying outrageous shipping rates, and sometimes I'd ship them a package and I would get burned because it would be $20 more than what I thought. And then sometimes I'd mail the package and it'd be like, hey, this did not cost nearly as much as I charged. What's going on here? So it was so weird. It was so scattershot because international shipping is crazy, man.
Oh,
so
yeah, international
this time
shipping
around,
is
I want to
crazy.
use the. Yeah, and we do a lot of it. So I'm glad that this time I think we can upgrade to a fulfillment service, and that should give people they're going to get charged later in the process, but they should get charged a nice, accurate thing that's really tightly correlated to the actual fulfillment cost.
Now, you don't have to answer this, obviously. Just from a perspective of someone who's never done a campaign,
Sure.
what percentage is the fulfillment company, like what percentage are they working off of? Or are they making their money off the shipping?
I don't think they're making a lot of money off the shipping because the rates are pretty close to what I'd expect, but they do charge receiving and pick and pack. So
Okay.
that's just going to add a little bit. And I mean, it adds maybe a few bucks on top of the postage. So it does probably make it like $1 or $2 more expensive for some people, although not really, because at the same time, even if I was doing it myself, I'd have to buy all the packaging materials and work that cost into the equation as well.
Okay. All right.
Plus, I mean, it's going to save a lot of time this way. I remember when I was fulfilling Volume 4, I believe I stopped production on everything, and for 2 solid months, I was just packaging and mailing books.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Fulfillment is a motherfucker, no matter what. So
Yeah.
we get to the hour story portion of your campaign here, and it says we've had our share of obstacles: being hit by a truck, hard drive crashes, fire torching our inventory, and an entire 3-story apartment building. This sounds like it should have been written into the story of the comic. Like,
Wait.
Well, we got the comic stories all written in advance, so we can't just improvise when our apartment burns down.
But getting hit by a truck?
Oh yeah, that was ironically, that was the last day I was working as a security guard at that particular site. Because during the early years, right out of college, I wanted to, do art full time. So I did freelance and Dreamkeepers side by side for a year, and that was terrible. Like the freelance art, it was starting to take off. I was doing some commercials for like a car dealership with computer animation, so I was finally starting to pull in some real money,
Mhm.
but it just drained all my time.
Right.
So
Yeah.
so I got
You're
a
up-
Joe job. I was like, okay,
You're up
this is
from
dumb.
like you work from, let's just say you work from 8 to 5, and then you get off of work, you take a 2-hour nap, work from 7 to 3 in the morning on freelance, and you catch a cat nap before you have to go back to work at 8 the next day, and you just do that for 6 weeks straight to get your
Exactly.
deadline, and by the end of it, you just hate everything. I don't know anything about that life.
Yeah. Sounds like you know a little too much about it, but
Mm.
fortunately, I was able to land a pretty good job for what I wanted to do as a night shift security guard. So, I do my job, and during a lot of the job, since the building's empty, I could actually also work on my comics. So that was sort of like a nice little secret angle that I had for a few years.
Okay. All right.
Even so,
Getting paid to
any
pursue your
any
passion.
Joe job,
Nothing wrong
everyone
with that.
Exactly. But even so, there's still supervisors to deal with and clients and
Mhm.
coworkers, and so I was actually working as a security guard for about 7 years as I did the comic, and the nice thing about that too was every single cent that the comic made, I was able to pour back into promoting and building up our readership and trying to get it out there more. Because if I can kind of eat with my security job, then hey, let's invest this in our future and try to expand it. But the last
Right.
day, when finally, this was when Volume 3 released, and it finally punted me just outside of the need to have a security guard job, so I went for it. But running home from work the last day, because it was about 2 miles away from where I lived, we only had one car. We were both working, so hey, I'm closer. I'm going to be the one running home. Last time, I got hit by a truck, and I flew through the air and rolled on the concrete, but I got up, and I was fine. The lady was freaking out, though. She
Holy
jumped out of the
shit.
truck, and
You were
she was
fine?
like, "Oh, yeah." I mean, I was also wearing body armor, so I think that helped. But
Probably.
as the truck was swinging into this crossroad, I knew it was going to hit me, and I wasn't able to dodge it. So I was kind of like, okay, am
Do
I
a
going
barrel
over or
roll.
under?
Do a barrel roll.
Pretty much, I was able to like just spring up off the ground. So instead of crushing into my rib cage, it hit me like high on my thigh, right in the meaty part of my thigh, and it kind of
Ooh.
launched me. And I put a dent in the hood, but
Nice.
it didn't hurt any joints. It didn't crush any bones or nothing. And thanks
You
to
have a nice
the
bruise.
I didn't even really have a bruise. I don't know what the hell
the
happened,
fuck?
but it launched me like 10 or 20 feet. I rolled to a stop. The lady jumped out of the truck, "Ah, again. And she's like, "Are you okay?" So I was like, "Well, am I okay?" I don't know. That
Did
that hit me
your
pretty
check
fucking
start to hurt
hard.
a little bit? Did you just stand up holding your neck and say, "Oh, my check hurts"?
I mean, I probably should have done that if I was being a smart person. But I was just like, I felt bad for the lady because she seemed so upset. So I was like, okay, well, let me stand up and see if anything.
Of course she's
is
upset.
safe.
She
And
seemed
Her
upset.
insurance is about to
Hit you
go
with a
through the fucking
goddamn
roof.
truck.
I mean, but I wasn't injured. I just fell down. I've fallen down before. That's nothing new. So I
And
lifted
you're
up one
way
leg, and it's
nicer
like,
than I am.
that knee joint works. That one's good. And it's like, this leg, what about this? Oh, this leg works too. So I was like, hey, lady, it's all good. And then I was like, oh shit, because I saw the hood of her truck had a big fucking dent in it. And I was like, okay, I got to keep her attention off of that dent. And I was like, oh, over here, it's fine. Just get back in your truck without looking too closely, and we'll go our separate
What do you
ways.
think? She was gonna fucking sue you for denting the truck that she hit you with? What is wrong with you?
I don't know. I couldn't afford a lawyer. I didn't want to find out the hard way.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Lawyers would have been fucking breaking your door down to take part of your settlement money. Calm down.
Settlement for what? I was fine, and don't they have to prove damages? I was undamaged. They'd be like, look, this man got destroyed, and they'd pull my pants down. Everything's right where it's supposed to be. There goes the case.
Wait, they don't pull your. Never mind. They don't. I've actually
I
been
just
hit
don't
by.
know how the world works.
I've been hit by a couple of cars
Psychological
in my life,
damage.
so that there's a
Oh,
different
man.
way that goes. I was a kid when the first one hit me, so maybe I have a rose-colored vision of how that worked. Oh, that car fucked me up.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
Oh, it's all good. I got a settlement for it. It would have put me through college if I would have been intelligent. Anyway, going forward, but none of that stopped us from delivering thousands upon thousands of books as Dreamkeepers branched into tabletop games, plush, spin-off novel, and more, all due to the support of spectacular readers. A massive thanks to all of you. You're not telling me anything about the story two sections in, so that's point number 2 against the campaign. Newcomers, you can catch up free on our website. Never put that on something you're asking people to pay you money for. Big no-no. You put that on your Twitter account. You take that off your campaign right now.
But what if they
No,
want to read it first
no.
to know whether or not they?
No, you don't give them that option when
No,
they're
we're-
thinking about buying it. You don't say, "Oh, well, don't buy it. Read it for free," and then decide. No. You let them go to your Twitter for that. You remove that by at least one step. Now we're ready to share the exciting next installment of the story. Scroll to choose your favorite rewards and contemplate which faction will win your allegiance. You've got this nice little graph here where it marks all of your your tiers, and you've got some enamel pins for factions going on. Got some surveys where people can pick factions and get different rewards based on them. It looks like you got
Yeah, because there's different sides in the story.
okay. Now your hardcover. I don't know. Are you familiar with any of the other indie comics like going on in the scene right now? Like, are you familiar with the whole Comicsgate nonsense and all that?
I'm passingly familiar with it. I know one time I tweeted about it and I asked, there was someone talking about it a lot, and I kept hearing about it, and I was like, "Oh, I'll ask this person. They seem to be talking about it a lot." Her name was Renfamous, so I said, "Oh,
Oh,
are any of the comics in hashtag Comicsgate good?" And then people started telling me
yeah.
that I was a horrible monster and a
Right.
misogynist, and
So you should have dug into
No,
I
white
was like,
further.
supremacist. And
Renfamous is the biggest opponent of Comicsgate that has ever walked the face of the planet. There's a
the
strong
biggest problem in the multiverse. Spoiler
there's
alert for next
there's a
week.
strong speculation that Renfamous has been paid by Marvel Comics Joe Quesada to basically trash talk Comicsgate.
I mean, but aren't people just generally like, I'm not that familiar with the details, but isn't it kind of like, hey, what if people could make their own comics and there was more in the world than Marvel and DC? Isn't that kind of the gist of it?
Yeah, basically.
Yes.
I mean, there's a lot of internal
And then-
politics. For the outside
Sure.
normie, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and I mean, anytime there's an internet movement, there's always going to be some bad
Yeah.
behavior on both sides of it. But I don't think that necessarily dominates the entire point of it.
Well, Doug TuNapel was an early adapter of the CG model, and he's since kind of broken ties with the group. But you know Earthworm Jim. I mean, you were around.
Actually, I think I got that book from him on Indiegogo, actually, because
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that book looks huge and awesome, so I picked it up.
And that's kind of the standard for hardcovers. Like I've gotten both of the Bigfoot Bill books and the Earthworm Jim one, and they always come out phenomenally. So that does set the standard for a hardcover omnibus, and not a lot of people have attempted a hardcover beyond that. So I'm interested to see what you go for. One thing that I have noticed with those campaigns, because hardcovers are so expensive, the smart money is instead of doing like a lot of add-ons and perks, which obviously you've already got kind of the idea you want to work with going, but
Sure.
when you get into creating hardcovers, look at putting the value back into the treatments and foils, litho prints and all that
yeah.
good shit, as opposed to creating new things, because a hardcover is going to cost you a lot more money than you think it would in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah,
Just
that's
simply
why a
in
lot
weight.
of
Like when you have to
Yeah,
take
I'll-
shipping weight into consideration with a hardcover, it completely messes the whole game up.
oh yeah, I think these things are going to be like upwards of 5 pounds, so that's why I put a little weight estimate at the bottom with the shipping.
Yeah, like they're not light or not easy to ship, but especially like you said, a lot of your customers are international backers, and there
Yeah.
was a lot of controversy with international backers. Big But it looks like you've got a very well thought out campaign put together here, and you obviously know your stuff. You've been doing this on Kickstarter for God knows how long now. I want to look at your stretch goal.
Sure.
So
Actually, most of the stretch goals are just what you were mentioning. I figure I've got the base items and the pricing down for those. So the stretch goals, I just focus on making the hardcovers more and more fancy with foil stamps and debossing and spot UV and stuff like that.
it's like he knew he was going to have to outclass me on my own show, Eric. What am I supposed to do with this?
Well, I mean,
I mean,
partially it was inspired by
happens
that
every week.
that Bigfoot Bill book was so cool, and I was like, or
Yeah.
I'm sorry, the Earthworm Jim book I got, and I was like, oh, I want a book that has stuff like that. I don't know if I can pull it off. It would cost a little more, but hey, I'll just make those the stretch goals. If we can do it, we can do it. So
Yeah.
I really like foil stamps. It's a personal soft spot for shiny golden metallic treasure. I just
Yeah.
really like it.
And it seems to me that people that put their money back into create a product that's actually more sought after down the line. So your Volume 5 first stretch goal is just a campaign goal, followed by an additional $500 get a bookmark. Every physical backer,
Mhm.
I would say. Then you've got
Yep.
the V5 cover and foil stamp. You got stickers.
Yeah, that
You got spot UV. You got debossing. And then the omnibus comes around $3,700. So you basically only need $19,500 to omnibus. So you just need your campaign doubled, basically.
Yep.
That is not
And I
hard to
think
pull
Volume
off.
4 brought in and I have no idea if we're going to be having more or less because it's so hard to track data with how fractionated social media is. But I know Volume 4 did pretty solid. It brought in between 80 to 90K. So as long as we're in that same ballpark, we will get the omnibus out there.
Right. So I don't know. I
Nice.
even though it doesn't, it doesn't really look like something that would grab me at first. Like the idea of a compendium of this with the slipcase at 500, at 60,000, you've got another foil stamp, and then you have a video game. Wait. Explain the video game tier to me at 125,000.
Yeah, we've been me and my buddy have been kind of low key working on a video game for the series since about 2011. And it's never really been something I brought to the forefront because I didn't have any extra resources to produce it. But just on the side, I've been putting animation into it on my own because I learned animation in college. And so at this point, we have a fully playable character. The main character, Mace, he's fully playable. You can run around and jump and do stuff and punch things. So I was thinking, if we can really get this campaign off the ground, I'd love to get the video game a little more into the forefront and get some more playable characters animated. And I think if we can just because it's going to be Mace, Bast, and Nama are the primary playable characters. They all have a little bit of a different kinesthetic feel. They have some mechanical variations. So if we can get animation for all of them, then we can really kind of, we're going to be off to the races in terms of building some test modules and play testing and getting momentum for a game release.
Okay.
Okay,
Well,
how do we get someone who's actually like creating a legitimate franchise with different sort of media offshoots on this show? How do us two drunk assholes pull this one off? That's crazy.
shout
I
out
don't know.
Hazen Cruz.
You-
Shout out Hazen
Yeah,
Cruz
thank
looking
you.
out for the show.
He's the magic man. He connects us together, but yeah, we are. I don't know. I guess I've just been spending too much time drawing stuff. We've also got a tabletop game for the series. That's I think that was one of our last Kickstarter campaigns.
Well,
was
I
getting the
do
tabletop game
want to
out.
know about the tabletop game because I am a big proponent of collectible card games, and I'm probably one of the few people in the history of the world that has the C deck builder game, all of the add-ons and all that good stuff. So tabletop games and the collectible card games and deck building game market, that's right up my alley. So what is your tabletop game based?
The game is called Skirmish, and I will say it's not quite a deck building. Well, it's a little deck building, but not really a collectible card game. What I wanted was I wanted people to be able to buy just the boxed game, and forevermore, that's competitive.
Yeah,
'Cause
that's
one of the things that
that's the thing that I love about deck building games as opposed to trading card games, because we all know that
Yeah.
Power 9 will never be printed in Magic the Gathering. You know, anytime you buy DC deck building or any other deck building game, the base box is all sit down and play with 5 to 10.
Yeah, and that was sort of the idea with Skirmish. So I think the base game there's one expansion deck out, but the base game has 4 good guy characters and 4 bad guy characters. And what you do is you choose 2 heroes, and your opponent chooses 2 bad guys,
Mhm.
and you put them on the board. You shuffle their deck together, and then that way you've got 2 leader heroes, and you fight it out until one of you is dead. And it's got 3 spatial lanes of play, so you can do like flanking maneuvers and stuff. It's really fun.
Before you even finish that statement, I'm going to need you to go ahead and DM me some information about how I can acquire this.
Oh, sure. If you go to dreamkeeperscomic.com
just DM me. I'm not gonna. I've been drinking whiskey.
Okay.
We already know. Not doing it right. And still waiting on whether or not I'm actually going to have money if COVID doesn't break me, if at all possible. A couple of card games up. So.
Yeah.
Well, Monopoly is what got
grabbing
people
the
through the
link
last
now.
depression. So.
And before the apocalypse really starts kicking off.
Well, if we actually hit the age of apocalypse, then I'll just be able to join forces with the Almighty himself. So that'll be fine. And with
that's
that,
what makes the whole.
oh, go ahead, Rune Knight.
Is that Rune Knight I hear?
It
It
is.
is a rune that you hear.
It is.
Here.
But before we get into it with
You
Rune
just
Knight,
busted
I'm
in the
gonna.
door? Oh,
No, I dragged him in
I'm
because
proud
he
of you,
refused to bust in the door like I gave him permission to.
God damn it!
No. The short chat is locked.
Is it? Not to
I
you.
can't go in. It is.
What?
Totally to me. Otherwise, I would have been in here at the beginning.
Okay, let me look at your roles. Oh, you're only a pulpit caller? I gave you admin. Now you can do it. Here, I'm going to put you back in the waiting room. You come back in.
Oh, all right.
Let's see if he can actually do it. There you go.
Hey.
I thought you had the admin role, or else I wouldn't have been giving you shit all at this time.
Yeah, we totally.
I
thought
just
you were an
expect to be
admin.
given shit. That's the.
It's a
Anyway,
reasonable expectation. in life.
David, this is Rune Knight. This is our co-host on The Biggest Problem in the Multiverse Saturday nights.
Hey, Rune Knight.
And as I said in the live show chat, I am a card-carrying furry filth. Insofar as I'm a furry and it's not a thing, but there are people who think it's a thing who want to drag me through the mud for it. So it's a thing.
Well, if you need help, just tell them that you're into the genre but not the lifestyle. That might be a little clue. To
tell them you don't
I know,
support
right?
Caro. Tell them you don't support Caro, and they won't make it a thing ever again.
I do not support. I do not support anthro-terrorists. No.
disavow.
But I do. I was going to say, actually, the oncoming depression is what makes this whole thing with comics being anti-fan really weird. When comics were a boom industry during the last depression, so it's like, wow, we're screwing the pooch before the huge inroad of capital is going to come in.
Well, you guys can always just come over to the church and we'll play some DC deck building. I've got like 8 base games that we can play, so I think I can have upwards of 100 people playing simultaneously.
Oh, cool.
Well, with that in mind, I am familiar with the existence of Dreamkeepers. I've never had the pleasure of reading it at great length, but I know of it. I also know it's really long. There's a lot of it to read.
Yep.
But I'm over here at Vivid, because somebody should do some legwork. And I do have
Excuse me? I put the link in the description, sir. Sir.
I scrolled through the website a bit, like 20 minutes before the show because I fell asleep.
I went unbidden and it did not require alcohol. So
True.
I do have a question though.
Sure.
I'm not raking over the coals. I'm just curious. Because if you do not know, I also have been trying to get into the industry, trying to get product out there through Indiegogo.
Oh, nice.
How do you correlate your desire for people to submit content with the clear stated understanding that you can't accept everything, even if you wanted to, and the idea that they are supposed to provide you a physical book, a physical property with full art when those artists have to be paid? Because one of the problems that we have found in our efforts to put together a product is you have to have test materials, you have to have an ash can and the like. You have to show people concept, but you can't screw the artist. The artist works for a living. So, page count and the work becomes creatively prohibitive.
Well, as a as somewhat of a historian in the chat right now, I can say that if you really feel it, if it's really your dream, you'll be like Eastman and Laird, and you'll get a loan from somebody who has some money or tax returns on, and you'll make it happen. Where you can't feel bad for artists not getting paid to pursue their talent if they are trying to break into the industry. Now, if they're not trying to break into the industry and they're being contracted for work, they deserve to get paid up front. But if they're trying to break into the industry and they're taking an opportunity on someone else's dime and they can't meet the requisite of being able to go to Office Depot and get a couple of A13 sheets printed up to staple together, that's not your problem.
Sure, I'm just curious what the opinion of the creators of Dreamkeepers is on this subject, because they've been through the same struggles that we are. They've done the thing.
I think the origin of it probably starts from a little bit of myopia, because I was like, oh, as soon as I could print off my comic, of course I printed it on demand, because why not? So part of it is just thinking, hey, that's what I did as soon as I could, so probably other people could too. Granted, if you think about that for 10 seconds, it doesn't pan out to every situation, definitely. But the other side of it is, since we are a small independent publishing company, I don't have a lot of resources presently that I could use to help develop and produce outside stuff. It's mostly just whatever I can do myself. Maybe this campaign will help open that bottleneck up a little bit. But so at this point, the upside is,
and keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, that he's talking about 5 volumes into this book as to finally breaking even or making a profit. Keep that in mind.
It takes a little bit of doing.
It's like a restaurant. You're not gonna break even for a couple of years. If you want to pursue it, it's going to cost some money and take some work. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
But if you really love it, then there you go. So, so one of the things is the downside of going with our company, I would say, is we don't have a lot of institutional resources that we can share. People have to kind of be pretty capable, pretty independent. The upside is with our contracts, I made our contracts for people like me. And by that, I mean, so many publishers are like, oh yeah, sign with us. We'll have all the rights and we get 90% of the revenue. And then they're like, oh, also you have to make everything. And also you have to market it yourself, of course. And you got to be out there and you also have to crowdfund it. And it's like, wait a minute, what? Why are we paying you people anything? So the contracts that we have, essentially, if a creator crowdfunds their own book and produces it and we publish it, they just keep the money unless we buy some books from them. And then in that case, we have those copies of the book that we bought.
That is expressly why I didn't convince my editor to swallow our pride and go with Image, because Image is like, we'll publish you, but you have to do every piece of legwork, have a completed book in advance, and you have to promote yourself because we won't do it. It's like, so what am I paying you for?
Yeah, at that point, if you're gathering the readership entirely yourself, you're making everything, you've got the product, you've got the market, now there's all these crowdfunding avenues where you can get it to the people. Why would you be paying a middleman? They've got to add some value to the equation if they want to get paid.
They're literally offering themselves as a middleman to Diamond, and Diamond is collapsing.
Oh, I've got some opinions about Diamond, boy.
Please,
Cool.
please
let's
tell
go.
them.
Go ahead.
Do it. It's one of my favorite things to raise hell
Oh
about.
man, I think I've still got them archived on my website. I wrote a series of articles in 2008 because as soon as I was doing my own comic, I was like, okay, now that I'm printing my own comic and delivering it to customers, the next step is put it into stores. Well, that should be the easiest thing in the world. It was not.
So literally, you have stored up salty complaints about Diamond
Nope.
to share.
Well, I'm not so salty about it now because I got that article out of my system, kind of came to terms with it. But just the way they were formed is psycho. Do you know about like the Heroes World collapse and all that stuff?
Yeah,
I do not.
Oh man,
go ahead.
Diamond was formed like there's a reason they're the biggest, dirtiest monopoly in comics because that's kind of how they started.
Yeah,
There was
they
let me see if my
undercut their
memory's
way.
good.
Well, they undercut their
Comics
way to
can't
the top.
Trust Diamond. Diamond is asshole.
Yeah. Well, I think, ironically, I believe it was Marvel that started the exclusivity wars. This was like in the 90s. Marvel bought a distributor. They bought Heroes World, which was a distributor. At the time, there were many distributors in the comics market. What a marvelous sort of paradise. What
Well,
a strange notion.
Well,
Just to
back
clarify real quick, was it Stan or was it the corporate monkeys who took it after they
Well,
gave Stan his retirement
back
papers?
when there were multiple
I don't-
distributors, you were able to get comic books at a newsstand, in a grocery store, in a drugstore, anywhere that they could fit a spinner rack. You were able to purchase comic books. They had a return policy pretty much everywhere because you had to vie for business in that regard. Like you had to be the most lucrative and enticing distributor to get the business of a store. So, and they were also regional. So, like you couldn't. It was almost like the territories back in the old days of wrestling. Like you couldn't go outside of your territory and get work, so to speak, if you were contracted.
So
So-
does that
Yeah.
mean that Diamond is like the McMahon of comics?
Yes, 100%. Except not as cool.
And I don't want to
McMahon's
necessarily.
not that cool.
And I don't want to throw Stan Lee under the bus. I don't think he had anything to do with this. At the time, Marvel had just been taken over by Ron Perelman, I want to say. He was called the
Yeah.
Junk Bond King. He was some Wall Street guy. So
Right.
some Wall Street guy came in. He bought up Marvel because this is back when there was like a big boom in the 90s, I guess, where there was lots of speculation. And so Wall Street got involved. And they bought a distributor, Heroes World. And then as soon as they got their own distributor, they were like, okay, we are only going to allow this distributor to do Marvel stuff exclusively. All you other distributors, F you can eat it, you can die.
Well, you can
So they
wait a
were
couple
actually-
of
their-
weeks
their
to get our
plan was-
reprints.
Yeah. Well, I think their plan was they wanted to deprive the other distributors of Marvel books, and the idea was that since distributors ran on very thin margins, that they would go out of business, and then Marvel would have the only distributor in the industry, and then they could, basically make DC Comics their bitch. That was the
Right.
plan. The plan was to totally take over the supply lines, and then they would have DC over a barrel.
Yeah.
That.
Everybody passively kind of talks about the comics crash in the 90s, but the thing is it actually bankrupted Marvel. And that's when
Well-
Stan lost his stake.
Well, not only that, but that's
Yeah,
also
well,
when
that's 'cause,
Fox bought so many of their properties for movie rights at the time as well, which is why we
Yeah.
got
Oh.
stuff like Blade and Fantastic Four and Spider-Man coming out of Marvel, because Marvel actually
Right,
owned
they-
the cinematic catalogs and rights for those characters.
Well, because Marvel had a idealistic interpretation, and they're not wrong.
Like that's how they
That
stood.
they-
That's how they
they-
stayed afloat is by
Yeah,
selling their
yeah,
stock to Sony and Fox.
They thought they were going to float out their properties for like 5 years, and then they'd come back home, right? And then they could recoup. But they made a horrible mistake in their contractual obligations.
But lawyers-
As long as you keep, they said, as long as you keep making movies, you can hold on to the property.
Uh-huh.
So, like every couple of years, they'll just make another Spider-Man movie, whether it's good or not, to hold on to the property rights, progressively damaging
Look,
the
I
property.
stand for
Yeah.
Tobey Maguire. Like he had some
Oh.
virtue with Spider-Man. It's just
Toby
once Spider-Man
and
3
Sam Raimi
hit.
got screwed.
Yeah, once Spider-Man
that's
3
the
hit,
thing.
it was
Toby-
god awful.
That's the thing, though. Toby and Sam Raimi got screwed on Spider-Man 3.
Yeah.
Completely. Because corporate Sony was like, no, you're going to put in 3 villains, and you're going to put in a Venom for a Venom lead-in that nobody wants with Topher Grace, and you're going to do it now, or you're not going to work in the industry again.
Yeah,
Sam Raimi was like, but I just want to do
because
Sam Raimi was
Eric
like, I just wanna
Foreman
do a
makes a
movie
good
about
Venom.
Sandman. Right, and Sam Raimi's like, I just want to do a movie about Sandman, guys. Come on. And the thing is that now we've seen.
Well, can
with,
we
with,
also
with the most recent?
go ahead? Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say with the most recent Spider-Man with Mysterio, we've seen that actually no, people will totally accept some of the wonkier concepts if you just give them room to walk.
Well, not only that, but can we also take a minute to appreciate that at once upon a time we had that 70s show Eric Foreman and we had House Eric Foreman existing simultaneously in the
I still think that Topher Grace was great in the movie Predators.
I still think Omar Epps deserves a shot at Venom.
Sure. I mean, it's not like Bane is doing bad as Eddie Brock, but he's also not a great Eddie Brock.
He is not a good Eddie Brock at all, actually. He's entirely too likable.
That's the thing. The horrible secret is that Tobey Maguire's version of Peter Parker being emo is accurate, and Topher Grace as Eddie Brock is a good Eddie Brock, because Eddie Brock's that kind of shit-eating sleep weasel. You know, the people who didn't like those things either didn't want to see them in film in that movie, which I can agree with, or don't read comics and had no idea what they were looking at.
No, I thought the general spirit of what they did in that movie was good. Just the execution was so bad and crazy.
Well, you really it was before you actually had the nuance of actually comic book movies taking themselves serious. The Hulk was like Ang Lee's Hulk actually set the standard for a comic book movie trying to take itself seriously. Even Blade was kind of tongue in cheek up to that point.
The thing is that Spider-Man 3 was 3 movies. Because if it had been the Venom movie, it would have been good. If it had been the Sandman movie, it would have been good. If it had been the Green Goblin 2 movie, it would have been good. But it couldn't be all 3 of those things and be good.
Just because Ang Lee's Hulk was trash doesn't mean it didn't set the standard for a superhero movie taking itself seriously.
I'm not questioning it. I mean, that and Nick Nolte set a standard for villains being what the hell.
But anyway, that's actually a pretty healthy segue into my next question for the guest. What actually inspired you to get into comic books? Like, what were you reading when you were and have comic creation under your belt? What got you into creating comics?
The Bible.
What?
Wait.
Well,
As a church, what?
Well, no, that's the origin. My dad was a Baptist minister, so I'd spend a lot of time sitting in church, and I really liked to draw, and they let me draw during the sermons. So one thing led to another, and by the time I was 12, I wanted to start. I wanted to move past just dinosaurs and sharks, and so I started drawing stories.
Well, are you familiar with Bible comics? Like, did you ever read any of them?
Not really. I think there was a Jack Chick tract that I found once that was really hilarious. But beyond that, no, not really.
I have a copy of the Action Bible.
Oh, really?
It's hilarious. It's the entire Bible in a comic book form. It's
Just
hilarious.
remember,
I love it.
D&D is the devil and is the gateway to Satanism.
Yeah, no, that was my childhood.
No, that's
like
Pokemon.
when I was a kid, they literally did tell me like,
Julius?
oh yeah, Dungeons and Dragons, that's a demon summoning game, and you'll probably go to hell if you.
Hold on, I need to
mess
yell at
with
the
that.
chat for a second. God damn
Okay.
you, Julius! Can I ban him?
No.
Can I ban him from our?
Give him a wrench.
I hate you.
He's right though.
So
Arkrum did do some Bible books.
No, he's talking about Alan Moore. He hates Alan Moore and the bringing up of Alan Moore. Hold on, Julius. Let me give you a wrench. Real quick.
I have a beef with.
Oh, you mean Swamp Thing's
Do not
daddy?
give that man a wrench.
And he's wrenched.
That's some
No, I just want to talk a little bit of history real quick. Back in the day with Wortham's production of The Innocent, you
Ooh,
had
yeah.
you had a company, EC Comics, that was founded by a guy who was publishing Bible comics. It was taken over by his son
I didn't know
pretty
that.
late in the game, and his son was all about the horror and detective comics of the day. But because EC Comics was basically put under the gun by Wortham's Inquisition against comic books, and the banning of horror comics, the banning of blood appearing in comics, the banning of bad guys actually coming out on top in comics by the Comic Code Authority, EC Comics
You get all the
actually,
fun stuff.
EC Comics actually
Right.
failed and folded into Detective Comics, which would later become DC Comics. So,
The only part of EC Comics that still exists today is Mad Magazine, and Mad Magazine is dead, and that's sad.
Yeah. yeah.
Oh, wow.
But, well, I mean, they died when they started hating on Trump, to be honest. Like, when they couldn't take political
Well, yeah, but
satire,
I mean,
like,
it's hate on
when you couldn't take political satire from Mad Magazine any further because they were all hateful on Trump.
That's the thing, though. Mad Magazine hated on every politician.
Right, but
no one was sacred to their magazine.
But then it became well, we hate Trump, we love Hillary book. And that's when they failed. That's when they ceased to be a publication.
I think that's a rough market too, because you can get that from everywhere in society, literally.
Right. I mean, we did a whole show on this over a year ago, talking about Mad Magazine and the history and the downfall of them.
Yep. So, the Bible was your inspiration to create comics. What were some of the first comics you
Pretty
were
much.
introduced?
I think my favorite was definitely, I just found a floppy collection in middle school somewhere. I found a Calvin and Hobbes, and I fell in love with that Calvin and Hobbes book. And that sort of became my favorite comic after that. And I just started getting as many Calvin and Hobbes collections as I could.
So, with that, are you familiar with, what's his name? Jason Youngblood, his Weapon Brown book.
I think I've heard that name before. It's ringing a bell, but I'm having trouble placing it.
Jason Youngblood is a heavy SJW person who went mono e mono Skyver on livestream and pushed Weapon Brown. And because of that, I actually looked up and read Weapon Brown and enjoyed it. It was actually halfway decent.
Oh, it was actually kind of it was fun.
Cool.
But he took the old comic strip characters like Charlie Brown, Garfield, Calvin and Hobbes. Who were the old army guys? Beetle Bailey,
Oh, yeah.
The Family Circus, all those old like newspaper comics. He actually wrote a post-apocalyptic story about all of those books.
Oh, that's kind of fun.
And Calvin was the T-1000 to Weapon Brown's Terminator, so to speak.
I'm surprised he was able to pull off a book like that without getting sued into oblivion by the license holders.
I'm not
Well,
sure he wasn't sued into
Loss.
oblivion. I'm not sure he wasn't sued into oblivion. To be completely honest.
Don't get me
it falls
wrong,
under
like-
parody, doesn't it?
Like, I like people being able to make stuff like that, but it's just like I know, because since whenever we put stuff out, we have to be careful. Oh, there isn't anything too similar to this,
Well, he never used the name Charlie Brown. He never used the name Garfield. Never used the name Calvin Hobbes or anything like that. Like,
Okay, that could work.
I mean, it was always Blockhead
Yeah,
or Weapon
called him
Brown or
Chuck.
whatever. Yeah. Snoopy was never, like, written as Snoopy. He was just always the dog.
I love
Yeah.
how you say that could work, like you're planning out something similar right now.
And fortunately, I'm too my hands are way too full already. I can't be affording more series right now. Too much to
But
do.
but yeah, if your inspiration was that stuff, I hate to say, I hate to promote who just generally shits all over my beliefs, but you should check that book out because I think if you enjoy that stuff and it was your inspiration to get into comics, that
Yeah.
you should read it because it definitely works.
So I may have to check that out. And I
Well,
mean,
I have
granted,
I have a
people are.
completely legit reader's copy that I can send you. It's 100% not pirated. So
Oh,
you,
cool.
yeah, if you wanna read it, you can absolutely do so.
Wow, thank you very much. I will add that to my list of things I need to read.
First comic was a random Gru. I'm actually working on a collection of Gru. Turbo F chat. I'm actually working on a Gru collection now. I've got about 15 or 20 issues already. So
How many issues are there?
of Gru the Wanderer, a couple hundred, I think.
Oh wow.
And of course you are.
Yeah, why not? Well, I mean, I don't have any of the Destroyer Duck comics that he first appeared in back in '80. I have none of those. Let's see. Epic Comics. 120 issues. Through the Wanderer. Remakes. Yeah. Yeah, it's 120 issues with a couple of extras and prequels, stuff like that. And you've got like Gru versus Conan and Death and Taxes, Hell on Earth, like not the game with it.
Yeah.
Rom Space Knight. Never going to be better than Rom Space Knight.
Oh, just fucking bring up Secret Wars.
I'm not going to bring up Secret Wars. Everybody's been doing it without me lately. So, what actually of the main two lend yourself to? What's on your have the opportunity?
No, I usually don't read that many comics from Marvel and DC. Well, that many. I don't think I've read any. I tried when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I would tend to read more novels. I was really into Michael Crichton and stuff. But I tried reading a comic once. I think it was an Avengers comic, but I didn't like how it was so short because 20 pages or so in, suddenly it's done, and I didn't really have the context of where is the story starting. And then it's like, well, I don't have the rest of the comic, so I don't know how it ends. And even though the art was cool, I liked having a whole story. That's part of why when I started making books, like I didn't release Dreamkeepers, even though I finished like the first 30-page chapter. I was like, well, I liked big stories when I was a kid, so I want to release the whole collection.
Well, and that's actually something that we brought up last night on the biggest problem. It's types of comic books you can pretty much reliably count on existing until the end of time. Number one.
What are the two types?
Well, number one, you've got your one and dones or your 2 or 3 issue arcs, right? Where you've got like a small self-contained story that runs in the middle of an ongoing series, or is a one shot or a mini. And then you've got your overarching storytelling, where the writer sets out with the ending already in the back of their head. Walking Dead is a good example of that. Invincible, Irredeemable.
Oh, you mean Walking Dead had more issues than the first 20?
Absolutely, they did. And if you read the entire series, it actually all ties together pretty nicely.
Does it actually have an ending that isn't just everybody dies because everybody's already dead because that's how they were what they told us?
Yes, it does.
50, 60 issues.
The ending is a decent payoff, believe it or not.
Because really, that's why I stopped watching. It turned into torture porn. It was awful.
The TV series is torture porn. The comic book series actually has payoff.
The TV series is just a soap opera.
Yeah. Well, so are comic books. They share the same tropes. Invincibility, like supernatural.
Degrees.
Well, not really. Professional wrestling, comic books, and soap operas all share the same tropes and should until we get time.
The thing is, a good comic doesn't feel like a soap opera.
That's only
But
because you don't like soap operas, from what I'm hearing.
No, I actually like soap operas, but just not all soap operas.
Well, I mean,
I
Sonny
watch
shouldn't have.
Runs through the hours of life,
Sonny shouldn't have been
so
able to
the
live
days
through
of
like
our
800
lives.
car crashes in General Hospital. Yeah.
No, see, General Hospital's awful, but I totally advocate everyone should watch the first 2 seasons of Dark Shadows.
Dark
It's
Shadows
amazing.
isn't a soap opera. Like, it is by definition.
Dark Shadows is a soap
but-
opera. No, it absolutely is.
But it's not
a
Days
soap
of
opera
Our
by
Lives. Like, it's satire based. Like,
It was
come on.
No, it wasn't satire.
It
were
is
serious. They just
satire
didn't have
based.
budget. No, they just didn't have budget and they didn't have time. We're talking the actual Dark Shadows. If you talk about that Johnny Depp stuff, I will go find you and I will beat the shit out of you, Church.
I mean, good luck with
Lose
that.
my mind.
My beard is larger
I
than
like
yours.
Johnny
I'm not scared of you.
I will use it as a handhold to pull you down to the ground because you can't knock me down more than once.
I
will
I
take you
like
to
Johnny
Pound
Depp,
Town,
though,
sir.
Red
I'm being threatened by a cripple right now.
You are, in fact, being threatened by a cripple.
I will sick cripple Jesus on you, sir. As a
threat's
church, I
threat.
have that
don't
right.
judge.
You know, I could set that up, Renee, if you can get out to Michigan.
I mean,
I
if,
can-
yeah,
set
you
up
get,
a
yeah, you gotta
between
fight
you and
cripple
CJ.
Jesus to get to me. That's the rules.
Well, I mean, if you guys like promote it and you know take some time with it, we can totally like get some residuals off the back end. You know, make
Yeah,
some
definitely,
t-shirts.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll
Cripple
design the
20,
shirts.
21.
That's right.
Ooh,
We'll
what if you
get
could
you
what if you had a projector and you put Dark Shadows up as a backdrop during the fight?
right to play during the actual fight, and then if cripple Jesus wins, I'll switch it to the movie instead of the actual soap opera.
Oh,
I mean, look, man,
There's some
now we're talking
stakes
about we need
for
a
ya.
venue because we need a festival. So this is Cripple Fest 2021.
No, we'll do it. We'll do it
Yes.
at the Toad Suck Festival.
I mean, you could do it at Anthrocon. Nobody would notice.
Well, I
but
live
they
in
don't want us there.
Arkansas, Dreamkeepers, so we have the annual
No.
Toad Suck Festival, Toad Days.
what is? I'm
Toad
almost
Suck
afraid
Days.
to ask. What is the annual Toad Suck Festival?
Well, it's called Toad Days.
Toad
It's like
Suck
mini.
Days.
It's Toad Days, like Toad Suck Days, and it's like the mini Woodstock of our small town in Arkansas. Basically, we inherit California
around
for like a
toads.
week.
It's Oktoberfest in Arkansas.
Well, I
So
call it
does it
Woodstock.
involve
but
frogs?
yeah.
or-
Races. It's
No,
it's
no, the
Frogs
name-
or toads? Or?
No, the name of the town that I live in Arkansas is Toadsuck, Arkansas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and we have Toad Suck
there are
Days
toad
every
races
year,
now.
but I'm not sure
I
it's
was
going to happen
imagining
this year.
some festival where I thought there was some festival where it's like, all right, we all love sucking toads. Let's build an event around it.
Well, I love licking toads as long as they're hallucinogenic. So
Yeah, I was gonna say if it's hallucinogenic, that's just quite a party.
right.
It's all fun and games till someone has a bad trip.
Then it's great.
That's crazy, man. Have any of you guys tried DMT?
Roll that clip, Jamie.
This is the conversation that needs a Family Guy style cutaway.
So everybody check the links out in the description. Dreamkeepers, is there anything else you want to push before we get way too far off the rails? I mean, we still have some time. We'll either go another 12 minutes or another 42 minutes, depending on how the conversation goes. But I don't want to let this get too
And
far
how
away from
drunk
us.
Me and Church get.
Oh,
yeah,
well,
let me put a cap in the official shilling part of the show. So
Yeah,
I guess just
absolutely.
the thing, if you're gonna go to one thing, I'd say people go to dreamkeeperscomic.com, and if you have some time, read our comic. I think you might enjoy it, and if you do, we got that Indiegogo launching October 7th.
Well, I'm gonna shill one better for you, and what I've got up on the screen right now is vividpub.com, and that is where you can buy
Thanks.
some stuff. So give the guy some money. That's what you should actually.
True.
So-
And in fact, if you do go to that site, you can see some of our other authors. A lot of them, they are in the process of getting their book out, and they I think especially Bone, his book is almost done. So we have a few series that are about to launch, probably 2021.
And also go ahead and make sure you sign up for the mailing list over on Indiegogo.com, where you can be informed when Dreamkeepers Volume 5 actually goes live. I think this is the first weekend we've done 2 books that weren't actually live yet for promotion.
Yeah, thank you, man. You're better at this than me. I'm better at drawing than selling myself, I think.
Oh yeah, well I'm good at selling stuff for people. Like I had somebody on the other day, and he made the mistake of on somebody else's show that I happened to be on. He was like, "Yeah, the art's okay." I'm like, "Motherfucker, what are you doing? Like you say this art is amazing. This is the best art you've ever seen. What is wrong with you people? Why have you not already thrown money at me for this?" Like, you support my artist without even knowing how good the story is. You plebeians don't even understand. Sorry, go ahead.
For those who are following the business end of things, questions about process notwithstanding, Vivid actually looks to me like it has a pretty good submission structure. They take open subs. If you have products and you think it'll pass muster, doesn't hurt to try.
Never hurt to try.
And also,
you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Michael Jordan.
Plus,
Michael
we
Scott.
got
Michael Scott.
One of my local buddies, Bonitis, also has a review show where they review comics. So
you and Bonitis are good buddies. You got to get me in touch with that guy.
Oh yeah, totally. I'll connect. Do you have like a Telegram, perchance?
No, but I think I might. But I told him to delete it. But I might make another one.
Well, either way, DM me and I can be sure to link you guys up because yeah, he's a lot of fun to hang out with. We've been having all kinds of crazy adventures this summer. Oh my god, the snapping turtle was insane.
He did some fan art for Nick Rekieta back in the day.
Wait.
Go ahead.
He was on the Rekieta stream back in the dark days. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go
ahead, Aaron.
What's this about a snapping turtle?
Oh well.
Bonitis is a furry porn artist that refuses to draw animal genitalia. He's one of the good ones.
Yes, he has some standards, and he's got a book that's about to come out in this coming spring. We're publishing his first book.
Oh shit! Yeah, you definitely got to get him on the show. Then we'll push the fuck out.
What does this have to? God damn it! What does this have to do with the snapping turtle?
Well, Bonitis is a furry porn artist.
Well, we're artists. Sometimes we don't have a ton of money for food, so this summer we're like, okay, we're gonna catch some food, and we have been on a mission to go out into the wilderness and bring food in and kill it and eat it, and it's a lot harder than you'd think because every time he pulls in like a gigantic carp, he goes bow fishing. I spot for him with a flashlight, but one time we went out there and
I bow hunt as well.
Nice.
I'm familiar with the struggle.
No, what you got to do is you got to go out into the middle of a lake on a boat. You got to rent a boat, go out into the middle of a lake, and throw some dynamite in the middle of the lake. And then all the fish will start turning themselves belly up, and you can just scoop them into the fucking boat with a net, and you got fish for days as long as the game warden doesn't catch you.
I was going to make a joke about how Dynamite comics don't even explode good, but then again, it's like, nah, if you throw Dynamite comics in a lake, it might kill the fish.
No, I mean, because I was out there one time. No, I was out there one time with my nephew, and, I've been dynamite fishing my whole life, and it's always been illegal. I mean, it happens, right? So one time I'm out there and I reach up under there, and the game warden had decided to come fishing with me to figure out how I was catching all the fish in the lake. And, I pulled a stick of dynamite out and I lit it and I handed it to him. And he said, "Are you crazy? You can't do this. This is illegal. What's wrong with you?" And I said, "You gonna sit there and argue, or you gonna fish?" Rest in peace, Jerry Clower.
That's a good approach. I gotta try that sometime.
Well, that's his joke. I just bit it off, but yeah.
we should have used. We should have used dynamite on the snapping turtle. That's one thing
Yeah.
we saw when we were trying to go bow fishing for carp. But we saw a snapping turtle way out there in the river, and me and Chad were there. That's the other guy that does shots with comics with Bowen, and we were just like, "Hey, are we going to go out there and get it?" And I was like, "Yeah, we are." So I jumped in there with a net, and I just waded out to it and got the net around it and started trying to struggle and haul the thing back to shore.
Why
The
did you
net,
just shoot it with the bow?
because it was too far away. He would have had to like wade way out there. Plus, I don't know if you could get through the.
You
shell.
don't
The
shoot
shell's
it with
thick
a
as hell
bow.
on
You
this thing.
swim out
I
and
mean-
stab it with the arrow. Like you
No,
don't shoot a
I've-
turtle with a bow.
I've shot like 4 snapping turtles with a bow. It's
Oh, really?
And you haven't sent me
Yeah.
any turtle
Is it-
soup.
This was
And
before I knew you.
Did
Not my
did it punch through
problem.
the shell, or did you have to aim for like an opening in the shell?
So one punctured straight through the shell on a smaller turtle. The other one, I actually shot through the lip of the shell because it tucked its head in, and I
Yeah.
shot it through the lip of the shell, like through the into the neck basically, and killed it. I think I have a picture of that one actually. I'll post
Oh,
it. in
nice.
the
I'm not.
Discord.
I'm not
That-
pulling it up on stream.
That sounds easier than what we did.
Well, that's fine.
You know,
I've always
I
been
might
like-
have to stop.
I've always been the
I might have to
357 guy for gator hunting. So you drag the gator up on the ship with the harpoon stuck through it, and you have to shoot it in the head with the 57 Magnum to kill it.
I'll
Hey,
do it.
I
But
like bows.
we were not ready for snappers that night. Though we were ready for fish. So when we pulled that thing out of the river, first the net didn't survive, and we're like, okay, well, we'll kill it later. We'll kill it later. Let's just throw it in the back of his truck in a big Tupperware, like a rugged case, and we'll just kill it when we get to my backyard. It'll be no problem.
That thing
The
fucked you
thing
up, didn't
that's-
it?
Oh yeah. Oh yes, it did. You ever seen Jurassic Park? That scene where Dennis Nedry is in the car with the Dilophosaurus?
Yep.
Is a lot like
Yes.
that, and it busted out of the tote that was in the truck, and so then it was just up there at the window glaring at us through the truck windows, and we had to figure out, but it's not going to be feasible to kill this thing later. We have to kill it now.
Yeah,
so
pretty
the
much.
First step was
Like you've already lost the
how do we
toad.
get it out of the truck? Yeah. So we had to figure out how to get it out of the truck, and then we were sitting there. We didn't have a firearm with us. We didn't want to necessarily. And Bone had seen videos. He's like, "Oh, what you got to do is you got to pull the head out and then take it off with a hatchet." And we had a hatchet,
Oh,
but this
geez.
thing, we were trying to get it to
No,
pull.
but
But,
that's not what you.
well, I mean, we did it eventually, but it wasn't
The
pretty.
snapping turtle wasn't
Please,
cooperating with being beheaded.
Put your head out there so we can cut it off, please, while you pull it back repeatedly and say "fuck you."
Yeah, it was a struggle, and finally I realized, you know what, this is not gonna be fast and clean. I can only pick one, so we're gonna go for fast. And it got pretty messy, and we had some people walking by, and they didn't stop us because they just saw a bunch of guys sitting there with like a hatchet and blood splatters all over us, and they just kept right on going.
Yeah, I mean they didn't want to be
That's
next.
what you did.
Although
know
the
I know
craziest part though was like when we tried to butcher it in the yard later, because the thing, like, we had the head off. The head had
You
been
don't-
off for hours, and this thing was still kicking and struggling and pushing. Like Bone was trying to like chisel the shell open. The thing had no head. It would grab the tool and shove it away. It's like, what the hell is this nightmare freak show?
I know that this is not the context, but I cannot help but have the mental image of a couple of guys in fursuits with hatchets attacking a
That sounds like a Juggalo gathering if I've ever heard of one.
You know, some of this I was trying to keep
Whoop,
private.
whoop.
It's going to be out there, I guess.
So if you guys want to see the shot that I made through the lip of the turtle, it's in the live show chats in the Discord.
Oh,
and,
right.
and then the turtle is looking at you like, "Try harder, noob."
No, it's
Yeah.
dead at this point.
Okay.
Really?
The
Like,
head of the
apparently,
arrow is in its net is in like its the base
guess-
of its skull, basically.
I like how
I
I'm
guess
the
you're
most
supposed to
southern
hang
of
'em
all
and-
of these people, and I just buy deer off of people every year. Like that's just how I live my life.
That sounds
I can
nice.
hunt in my backyard, Church.
But
great.
but I might have to sub to Vivid because about 12 years ago when I was still in college, I tried to print a accessory for a role playing game. I can't say what company
Okay.
because even though the contract is probably very null and very void, better be safe than sorry.
Sure.
But they took my work. They didn't offer any help. They're like, look, you write up the whole thing, you give it to us, and then we'll decide what to do with it. And then they sat on it. So under the contract, I couldn't reuse my material or print it or talk about it in any way, shape, or form.
Oh man.
And then very recently, they put out a product on the Kickstarter, and I availed myself of their Discord channel, which was cool. Right up until one of the consumers, my fellow peers, people I knew, jumped my whatnot for not falling in line with the ideological stack, right? And basically, it's like, oh wow, my Ebola is not welcome here. So I took my leave, but I have been sitting on this this piece that is basically. And mind you, I made it independently. I didn't know these products would exist, but when I was creating it. But think anthropomorphic Skyrim or Vikings, and you ain't far off.
Oh, cool.
Right? Yeah. No, everybody who's ever heard of it's like, oh, that sounds really cool, and it's like, but I can't do anything with it because this company didn't want it. But I think it's free of them if they haven't printed it within the last half a decade or more. So yeah, maybe.
I've had so many horror stories that I've heard of people that signed with publishing companies and then their stuff just gets taken and it gets sat on. The company doesn't do anything productive with it, and then they're just locked out of their own creation. Like, if I could give one piece of advice to anyone listening, like, always read the contract, and if they just give themselves everything and they lock you out of your own stuff, unless they're offering something really sweet and really instantaneous, probably walk away from that.
In my opinion,
Like a blowjob.
Yeah, exactly.
In my opinion, this publisher thinks of themselves on some level as big kid in the small pool,
Mhm.
right? And not only wants to curate what content's associated with their name because they don't have an open gaming license or anything like that. They don't have an OGL, but also is very much afraid of anyone else getting in that pool who could compete.
Well,
And any other products that might endanger the incredibly niche anthropomorphic role-playing game market.
but I mean, isn't it sort of? I maybe I'm just naive, but I kind of feel like the more competition there is with people creating cool stuff, like, yeah, that makes it tough for people to create, but it's like that's sort of good. It pushes you to improve your skill, and the result is there's better stuff out there for people that want good entertainment. Because good entertainment kind of matters.
No, that's the thing. You're not naive. It's just that in the business world, they think oppositely.
Well, they're dumb.
That is the struggle we're all dealing with. That's why we have the Church of Failure in comics and stuff. Because for some reason people have decided that locking down and closing off media makes media better by keeping out competing ideals. And it's like, no, guys, free market of ideas here. Come on.
No,
Basically.
I completely line up with what you're saying because as soon as you try to like lock something down and retain total control over a market, like, it's going to atrophy. It's going to atrophy because at that point you feel like you own it. There's entitlement, and people generally. That's why I don't know. It just seems like in these institutions, I think it's just that they're aging out. Like, because the people in them, it's like they think they're the only show in town, and they don't really try. They just kind of try to sermonize or preach, and the stuff isn't good. It's like you guys got to struggle. You got to let competition in. You got to have something pushing you towards better content.
Well, the irony is that it's not old men. If it was old guard being like, we don't want your new ideas because they're dangerous, we would understand that, right? Yeah. But it's actually people who would otherwise be our peers, people in our age group or our social group or what have you, getting in. They're getting the dream job, and then they're closing the door behind them to keep us out and then using that to proselytize, and it's like, but dude, your
Yeah.
ideas suck.
Yeah,
Your ideas suck, and you're killing the dream.
It's
Well,
people that
see
are.
that, you see that everywhere. You see that in comedy and music and comics and all of kind of the creative arts sort of like media jobs. You have all these people like, that made their bones doing like outrageous and quote unquote offensive things or whatever, and then they make it big and they slam the door behind them for anybody coming up after them, and it's a bunch of bullshit.
I almost wouldn't even mind that so much, because it's like, okay, you have the institutions, you've totally locked us out, you're doing dumb stuff in there. That's fine. I'll just go over here and do my own thing. But it's just then they come after you and try to destroy what you're doing on your own. Like even when we did CouchCon, we had this summer, it was blowing up, it was going great. We had a bunch of roundtable guests. The guys at Crypto Comics were really helping out. They sponsored it, and sure enough, we have some people
Shout
from
out
inside the
Crypto.
Ivory Tower. Yeah, Crypto Comics are great. But we had some of the usual culprits coming out and DMing people and being like, "Oh, how dare you be associated with this? Oh, don't you know these people are horrible Nazi monsters? Oh, don't you know that they drew a snow leopard? You got to disavow. Like, what are you doing?" And I mean, we're talking some pretty big name guests. Like we had Chad Hardin in there. He was on the round table getting these stupid messages from these crazy people. And
Well, like I said in the YouTube chat earlier, how can you be surprised when they blacklisted the Ranting Griffin, who had been at Anthrocon for decades?
Yeah, he's another guy that I think Hazen has reached out to him at some point too. But there's another guy where it's like, hey, he was just doing a thing. But not only did they eject him from Anthrocon, I mean, I guess I've joined that club recently, but it's like they won't let him do anything anywhere. He was even going to.
I mean, being ejected from Anthrocon is actually a point of pride. Keep that in mind.
The thing is, the guy's a comedian, and he had regular, stable work, and everybody loved him.
Yeah.
Right. And because he didn't get in with the ideological stack, they punted him to the curb. They've actually negatively affected his ability to work anywhere.
Yeah.
And he's I want to say he's in his 50s, early 60s. He can't afford not to work if he has the ability to do so.
Yeah. So I think that's the kicker for me is not only do they like infiltrate these institutions, lock them down, and then turn them into like kind of garbage factories, but they come out here to the stuff that we're trying to build, and they do everything in their power to stop us from even having our own space. And that's why I went from making my comic to making a publishing company. It's like I've got to have some place where these people can't destroy it. If they're going to call my publisher or get me fired, I have to tell them, "Oh, let me let you speak to the manager."
Well, let me just come in and give this like a little bit of a not so much backhanded rebuttal, but it's not the comic industry or comic fans or anything that have shunned you. It's the fucking furry community, and it's their unwillingness to disavow somebody that has committed a fucking crime and admitted to that crime to save face.
I will.
And the question is are they saving face in their community for the fact that, okay, well, this guy committed some crimes, and if they put all of us under a microscope, we're all screwed? Like, that's the question you have to ask yourself. Is that what they're trying to defend?
That's why I almost think it's a bit of a blessing in disguise, because if these events are really all about like actually defending that stuff, it's like, okay, maybe we don't belong there. But I can say from experience, there's a lot of people, possibly a ton of people in the furry community that are genuinely not down with any of this.
Well, yeah.
The thing is, they're not the gatekeepers. The gatekeepers they will end you. They will end you if you say anything or look at them the wrong way. And everybody knows it.
It's the same thing on a microcosm as the whole Epstein thing. Like, everybody that's involved with that, they want to bury it.
Do a backflip.
What?
Well, here's the.
I said, do a backflip.
Here's the absolute bizarreness of it. Okay, yes, I'm going to reveal it to the world. I have made the public statement. Hi, I'm a furry. We're awful. But
Yeah, you are.
the thing is that it's nobody's business. You wouldn't know. I've had this anthropomorphic face avatar since day one and never mentioned it while talking to an anthropomorphic church and never made a thing of it. I don't need to talk to people about my furriness, and frankly, nobody else needs to know about it. It's not a thing.
Hey,
And yet, for
Rune
whatever
Knight,
reason-
Can I be
Rune
an-
Knight,
a
based on the
alcoholic?
hold on, Ayrton, real quick. Rune Knight, based
Okay,
on the
Yeah.
furry, based on the furry understanding that we now have.
Yeah.
You're fired.
Good. I'll check my check in the mail when you have money. The thing is that in this what passes for community, the argument has always been that we're really accepting. We accept everybody. We're really open.
Yeah.
And that sounds great on paper.
Well, here
Right.
at the Gospel,
Like, it
we
sounds
are
great.
open, we are accepting.
Right.
You know, in the furry community, not
the-
so much.
Except the
Well, no, that's the thing is that the furry community has always claimed to be really accepting, but
Yeah,
not
they're
having
liars.
any bar for entry. No, seriously. Listen to the voice of experience, church. I know it hurts. The not having any bar for entry or any like guideline for what is and is not acceptable, right?
Mhm.
I've been a furry since I was 15. They let in a bunch of people and a bunch of ideologies and a bunch of paraphilias that maybe we didn't want, right? But because we had no gatekeepers, they promptly turned around and established themselves as the gatekeepers. And that's why there are gatekeepers now.
Yeah.
Because you have this
Oh, 100%.
like subclass of individuals who have no ability to read a room. Like they can't understand that maybe, just maybe, keep your hobby to yourself. Right? It's like I have to get on TV with Vanity Fair to tell the world and my parents I'm a furry. Why? Why would you do that? Why do you ever think that Vanity Fair has your best interests at heart? What the fuck is wrong with you? And then they make the rest of us look like perverted whack
Well,
jobs.
Rune Knight, real quick, let's just put this in the perspective of a normie, okay?
Okay, go.
How often have you heard Ayrton and I discuss the kind of porn we like to look at?
None.
Okay, so
I
why
don't
the
think
fuck do you
it's
think
porn.
anybody else needs to?
Oh.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Redhead.
I don't.
Shut
don't
up,
talk to you
Ayrton.
about my
Stop
porn.
disproving my point.
don't discuss-
Nobody wants to know what kind of porn you're into.
I mean, it's not really a secret what I'm into. Like, everybody knows.
Well, I mean, that's
Boobs.
the thing is that
Oh, redheads.
Porn where
He doesn't
Ayrton
love
doesn't
movies,
get
like
rejected
red
hashtag
hair.
HTML.
Red hair, freckles, like really pale, fair skin. You know,
I mean, frankly, I think we're all very accepting here because we all know that church is totally into those architectural briefs.
Well, the church is architectural, so of course I am.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta be careful. If you look in those books and you see the girls without their fronting on,
Look.
you can
I
see
mean,
their circuits.
just because I like drafting documents as pornography doesn't mean I'm a bad person.
but no, that's the thing. Is like you guys don't know what I'm into. I don't care what you're into. It's none of our business.
Right.
Like
Like
there are people
what
who
you,
feel the need.
what
they
you
need
spank
to
the
share
monkey
it.
to is nobody
And-
else's fucking knowledge.
The thing is, the weird thing about the furry community, and it's a microcosm, but it's not a microcosm of an Epstein thing. It's a microcosm of a comics thing, right? Is that anytime anyone ever brought up, hey, maybe we shouldn't like let these people in who are bringing very negative belief systems, the response was, "You're a gatekeeper. Shut up. Don't gatekeep."
And
Right?
then you get Caro.
It's like- Yeah, exactly. It is literally a problem of we created the environment for this to happen. We're not innocent, we're complicit, and that's awful.
Yeah, that's partially why. I mean, since we've been cast out of the community, it's not like there's much option. But me and Bone and a bunch of other people, we're sort of aligning, and we're kind of. I wouldn't say we're starting like our own furry community, but we do
With
have a
blackjack
pretty
and hookers.
good-
I mean, more furry, more vegetarian.
But I mean, the difference is like I really like the honestly I like the genre a lot. I grew up reading the Redwall books. I like Black Sad. Black Sad is a brilliant comic. Like
Black
you can
Sad's amazing.
have
Oh, that
you can
explains
have like these great
that explains why you
creative
were
works
brought
of
in by
fiction.
Renthimus in the beginning because Blue Whale, all hail Blue Whale. Whatnot.
Yeah, exactly. I like everyone can be any type of cetacean that they want to be. It's great. Any color of cetacean.
Oh, she doesn't want to be a blue whale. She's just been designated as one because she thinks she's hot enough to cosplay as the chick from.
She just actually is one.
She thinks she's hot enough to cosplay as the chick from what's that fucking comic book?
Scott Pilgrim, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The blue hair
When
chick.
I was 15, what I wanted to make was basically Redwall
Babies with
plus Conan the
gorillas.
Barbarian.
Yeah.
That's
What-
always been my aspiration. Is Redwall plus Conan. That,
What I wanted to make was babies with gorillas.
I mean,
Yeah.
Look, you and me ain't nothing but mammals.
I was like, based on what I saw before I was no longer at any conventions ever, it seemed like the whole scene from furry, like it was different when I was in there in the early years, like 2007, 2008. I was at Anthrocon from the first year they were ever at Pittsburgh, and there was more of a focus on comics and content and stories and books and not just porn stuff.
That
And
was
that's-
before
that
foot
really had-
fetishism was accepted.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that stuff. It feels like it has gradually filtered out, and now it's really more about like strident political opinionation and narcissistic, persona indulgence, and the actual substance, the books, the stories, the fiction, like the core of it is gone. It's missing. It's all
Yeah,
just
that's what suffered.
So
self-indulgence.
what you're
Yeah.
saying is Christy Golden won.
I don't know who that is, but she probably did.
Okay, so when I became a member of the community, I was 15. I was
Everybody
illegally
remember
going to
David.
Furry.
David isn't a furry. He just like was friendly to the community before they stabbed him in the back.
It happens.
I mean, I draw a comic with furry characters. If people want to call me one, I'm not going to split hairs. It's whatever.
But I was
Pun
illegally
intended.
at Fur Nation. I was illegally at Fur Nation's chat in '92. That's how august I am.
Oh wow!
Because you're supposed to pretend that you're supposed to be 18. It's like, yeah, sure, I'm 18. I'm actually 15. I don't care. There wasn't a digital rights management thing yet. I could lie on the internet and say what my age was, and it wasn't legally binding. But the thing is that at some point, I want to say late 90s, 2000, somewhere, Christy Golden, a well-known anthropomorphic artist named Golden Wolf, lived in Utah, who had done some work for White Wolf in Werewolf the Apocalypse.
Mormonism, the number one cause of sexual deviancy.
Well, I mean, they work in the furry community, so proof.
That's
No.
true.
No, Mormonism is literally the number one cause of sexual deviancy. I lived with a family of Mormons for a while.
But
They were all fucked
but her
up in
thing
different
was-
ways.
her thing is that she had a narrow window to apply to be an artist with a dealer table at Anthrocon, and she didn't apply, right? And then she sends a letter asking to be included at the dealer's table. They're like, look, you missed the window, but we'll extend you a thing, right? Because you're good, you bring in money and attention.
Hell yeah, we'll extend you
And
something.
And she misses that window, and she
Well-
shows up at the convention demanding dealer space, and they're like, well, we'll do what we can, but you didn't sign the thing and you didn't follow through on the extension.
Yeah.
Right? So they get her a little table in a corner, and it's very simple. It's like a folding table. She doesn't have any space at the big event, right? And she's getting more and more mad. And apparently there was an argument, because I don't think she's allowed at Anthrocon anymore either, right? But specifically, she made the argument that people didn't come to Anthrocon for Anthrocon and hanging out. They came specifically to buy product and to spend time in the presence of basically extremely popular Uber creators like her.
They're not wrong.
I mean, they are. They just
Well-
also couldn't follow procedure.
I'm saying, I
So,
guarantee
Church, I
you
know
there
we
was at least one person there specifically to see them. And in
Oh,
that case,
absolutely.
then they're not
But you should
wrong,
still
they're just
follow
an asshole.
Yeah, no, they're totally an asshole.
So,
But That ass
So,
was a
we-
procedure too.
Church, we've talked about doing a live show from some sort of con. Should we do it from a furry con?
Absolutely, we can. I'll be a building made out of faux fur. Like I'll just have my avatar made up
No,
out of faux fur.
sir, don't. I've never been to a furry con, but I can advise you: do not wear fur at a furry convention. People will rub up against you.
No, it's fur. It's faux fur. It's like it's fake.
No,
fur.
I'm saying they'll grab onto your wooden exterior with your false fur, and they'll grind on it, and it'll be gross and weird.
Oh,
Don't
so
do
I
it.
should
But
just get like
no, we'll be
splintery
sitting
plywood.
at we'll be sitting at a table doing a show and interviewing people.
Yeah,
So-
I'm just gonna have to have a full like suit of wooden armor in order to protect my identity.
If you want to roll lighter, just hold a Dreamkeepers comic up. They'll shriek and recoil, guaranteed.
Maybe I'll plaster the outside of my outfit with that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the
You have
holy book.
t-shirts? I'll buy a T-shirt off of you and wear it.
So does that mean your essentially your costume is going to be failure prime?
I mean, have you seen my
Yes.
avatars?
I have. That's what I'm saying. Get that in like boxy format.
I mean, I could make my own costume. I'm that crafty.
Sure. Like out of cardboard?
Well, I'd make it out of cardboard and plywood. It'd be heavy, but
Yeah.
strong enough to
yeah.
carry it.
Yeah.
We'd be sitting at a table. Why do you need to carry it?
Well, I mean,
mean,
I'd have to
technically-
walk to the table, right?
Well, I mean, technically, if you're going to construct a costume, you could just build the table in. Then you're the table.
I am
There
the
we
table.
go.
Yeah. Get a giant cross and some
Trans-
flaming nipples going.
You put out a sign,
Trans-
people can pay $5 to know what it is to be failure by sitting at you.
No, they have to like sacrifice their tendies to know what it is to be failure.
Oh, you know what the worst part is? It's furry convention. Somebody will bring tendies.
Somebody will
Someone
bring
will have
tendies to donate to the Church of Failure, yes.
No, they won't even bring them for you. They'll just happen to have them for some reason.
And they'll be selling them
As-
$20
as
a
long as
piece to
they're
furries
spicy.
to sacrifice them to me.
Here's the thing. It's not that I hate furries because I'm a furry. That'd be hypocritical. It's that there is a bizarre lack of self-awareness. It absolutely conforms to
I
Jeff
hate
Foxworthy.
comic readers because I are one. So, I mean, it's not that unheard of.
I'm just saying. It absolutely conforms to Jeff Foxworthy's definition of redneck
Yeah.
because they are just completely lacking in good taste and self-awareness simultaneously.
am I
and
not-
do the
Am
things.
I not first in line to argue with all of you every week on the biggest problem in the multiverse?
I thought that's just because you like to argue.
No, that's because I'm the biggest comic fan and the rest of you are wrong.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
That I know.
I mean, I'm the only one on the show that has 80 years of comic experience in 30 years.
I'm not going to disagree with Uncle Alcoholism. I'm sure he knows what's right.
Impressive.
Well, I mean, considering I started reading like canon for certain characters back in the 30s and 40s, and it's 2020, I feel like I'm as good a historian as anybody. Vulgar, right?
Don't you shame our alcoholism.
I'm not shaming our alcoholism. I'm shaming your
Oh, I'm shaming
alcoholism
your alcoholism.
because it's not as good as mine.
Hey,
My alcoholism
I
is best
fucking
alcoholism.
delicious- No, I.
There's only one-
delicious Icelandic beer. It's a toasted porter.
Yeah, and I'm the one that takes like 8 shots a show.
I'm drinking
Okay.
some sparkling water.
Oh, that's the hard stuff.
Church,
That's right.
Church, do you remember what happened last time I drank a bunch of whiskey during the show?
Yeah, you went to bed during the middle of the post show.
Right.
So you and I are the sober ones here because I don't drink alcohol, but I got a mountain of coffee.
Nice.
Oh, coffee. I love coffee.
Coffee.
Yeah, but you wanna impress me, make it a mountain of
I
Coke.
drink way too much coffee.
Yeah, feel me.
I mean,
I'm gonna need,
it's all about
I'm gonna need
it's all
Rune
about
Knight
moderation.
Scarfacing up in this bitch.
look. It's all about moderation. Snowman is one level of moderation.
Snowman went to work, and once they found out what it meant, they banned my damn T-shirts.
I'm the best at moderation, though. I probably do more moderation than anyone.
Look, they said there must have been some magic in that hat. They didn't say that it was fairy magic. It could have been cocaine.
My rap was better. I'm sorry.
I'm sure.
Hey, I'm good at moderation. I only really drink when we do shows. The rest of the week, just coffee and water.
So
2021 everyday shows alcoholism point one.
I was gonna say, are you saying that Church of Failure drives you to drink?
Yes.
Actually, I
Well,
stream
there's only
him to
one way
drink.
to find out. There's only one way to find out who is the best alcoholic. Just everyone start drinking. The first guy to die loses.
That's not fair.
Alright.
The first guy to die actually wins, right?
I mean, do we have
a liver qualifier?
Well, no, I was gonna say, do we have a drinking game yet?
Yes, every time
We have,
I take
we
a
have
shot,
bingo
you take a
cards.
shot.
Every time Marvel releases a subpar book, take a shot.
Oh, well, yeah, I'd already be dead.
We would
Thanks.
have been dead of alcohol poisoning years ago. What are you talking about?
Retroactively die of alcohol poisoning. Sounds great. So we've got about 5 minutes left, David. If you want to plug your book one more time, I'll go ahead and pull it back up on screen.
All right, let me plug it one more. Let me do a better shot this time. Let me get my save.
Do it better than I could, because I'm coming right after you to plug this book. So,
all right, book plug. Everyone, brace yourselves. So, get into Dreamkeepers. Everyone has a unique character in the dream world, including you. Everyone's got a supernatural power to defend themselves from the invading nightmare hordes. So, if you want to find out which faction you'd be in, you could be the Nightmares. I mean, evil is fun. That's definitely true. The Troika, they're the renegade freedom fighters that work against the Nightmares because using your power is illegal in Andaruna. They haven't seen Nightmares for a long time, and they thought we're going to make the city a safer place. And if you use your power, the shock troopers will come down on you with the full force of law and either kill or banish you. So you could join the Central City Authority and help enforce the law because a perfect world requires absolute control. Or you could join the Neon Knights. They're basically anarchists. So yeah, whatever you want to join, read the story. It's a totally unique fantasy world. You can get into it. We're not supported by Disney or Warner Brother or Marvel or DC or any of those people. It's just us making what we love to do. And we're trying to carve out a little corner of the entertainment industry where that's how it works. It's a meritocracy. People make cool stuff, and if you like it, you buy it.
Is there perhaps some kind of sorting hat for these factions?
take a survey on BackerChat.
I'll give you a cheat sheet. If you're wavering, just pick the Troika. They're more or less the good guys. Although things do start to get a little gray in Volume 5. There's some internal fractions that open up.
So while you were describing that, I did have one final question.
I wanted to play some.
Go ahead, Aaron.
I wanted to play some heavy. I wanted to play some heavy guitar behind that, but
play Dixie.
I'd have to turn all my guitar shit on. I'm not playing fucking Dixie.
He'll play Dixie one day.
Wait a minute. If you won't play Dixie, will you play the Battle Hymn of the Republic instead?
I might do that.
You know that's just Dixie, right?
You asked.
Speaking of music, actually, there is a full orchestral soundtrack for Volume 5, so the backers are going to get a download of that album.
Even if you download it digitally for only $15. $15 for Volume 5, ladies and gentlemen. What are you doing with your lives?
Okay, I gotta ask now, and then we gotta get to Church's question. Dreamkeepers animated, short episode series feature Netflix when?
He's already attempted that and wanted to keep the property in tow. He doesn't want to give the streaming or creative rights away. So that's the thing.
I must have been busy. I must have been away at that moment.
But the thing is, we do have some vague plans in the works, but short term, I want to punch out the video game because I don't want to have too many projects in the air. And once the video game is out and successful, kind of the secret plan is we want to start to build up our own production house so we don't have to lose the rights to anything. And the comics that we produce under Vivid have a gateway up into expansion into animation and other stuff.
Well, I mean, the part of the reason I ask is because you guys have Zoophobia here, and isn't Zoophobia by Visipop?
Yes, we did sign her as an author years
Yeah.
and years and years ago, and she told us, "Oh yeah, I'll be done with that book pretty soon." And we were like, "Hey, whatever, take your time. We are going to be here for you whenever you're set." And I think she kind of forgot about us, but technically we do own Zoophobia.
Well,
Technically,
I'm
she
just gonna-
died. You know, it happens.
I'm
Well, I
gonna
mean,
whore myself out. I'm gonna whore myself out for a second.
Sure.
As a guitar player, if you ever need some kind of like folky blues, rocky sort of stuff done, let me know.
As long as it's not Dixie.
You.
That's long as it's not Dixon.
Yeah,
I mean, are we seeing the formation of the Church of Failure creative team? Is that what this is?
Yes.
I mean, one of the
Cool.
things that I do want to do with Vivid is I
Church
want to
Cast
start
Media
networking
Network.
people together. Yeah, no, it's like there's a bunch of us. There's a bunch of people that just love this content. They love comics. They love making stuff. They have a lot of talent, and we're all locked out of the established industry. We got to start kind of networking together and building up our own little side industry. And damn it, they keep on trying to crush us. But I think those of us still here and still surviving, we're pretty damn durable. So if we really do link up and start a little network of talent, we're going to be even harder to kill.
Well,
they're
I'm a
scared.
literal building. I have a great foundation, so
You-
got that going.
Well, look, they're scared. That thing I was saying earlier is true. Back in the 1920s and 30s during the Depression, the pulp lit industry and comics was a boom industry and made $1 billion, right? And they're trying to keep out anybody that can compete while killing their industry. If our economy takes a downturn and entertainment becomes a premium, because of the coof and so on, if you successfully make a competing comic industry and this comic industry somehow collapses, the little indie guys are going to become the mainstream guys. You're just going to take up their mantle and they ain't going to be able to stop you. So, and I think they're terrified of that idea.
Yeah, well,
Of course they are.
say we have done a whole lot with zero budget, no trust fund, no capital. We just started with a piece of paper and a pencil. So if we actually get any significant resources, they better watch the fuck out.
Was it a number 2?
A number 2 pencil? It was actually. It was a number 2 pencil.
Good.
Eventually, I
number 2
upgraded
work
to
for?
mechanical. Oh,
And those
I
are all
know
number
that. I'm
7s.
old.
Anyway,
But who is number 1?
me.
Taiwan number 1, China number 4.
Yeah, but those are my big dreams. Now they are out there.
Well, we
Church,
definitely.
you're not the prisoner. Don't lie.
I mean, I'm his number 1 confidant. Like, I shouldn't have said that on stream. I'll have to delete that one. He does come to me for counsel. As a structural building, I stand to defend.
Excellent.
Anyway, thank you, David, for coming on the show. Check out the links in the
Yeah.
description below. Sign up for the mailing list. Be ready when the goddamn book hits. Check out volumes 1 through 4.
Let me just say, go check out David and all his stuff. I was a little nervous when Church said what we were talking about on today's show, but it was fun. This is a cool dude. He's got some integrity. Go check him out.
It's the only
Thank you.
show.
And if you guys,
It's the only show where you can get a creator who has an anthropomorphic character that could be considered furry in topic, and went against Kara the Wolf and found out that furries had no integrity. Feel me? The only show where you're going to get that kind of show.
They got no integrity.
yeah, thank you for having me on. It's been really fun.
Hey, I definitely appreciate it, buddy. Anytime. When you actually launch the campaign, we'd love to have you back.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and if I can ever be helpful for you guys, you want to drop a line, just send me an email. And sometimes it takes me a while to get through, but hit me on Discord or Telegram if I'm being slow.
I
on
mean,
email.
I think a show with Hazen
All right.
Cruz, Bonitis, and David Publishing would be fantastic.
I
Oh,
We're on
yeah.
the biggest problem.
We should.
would.
So
We should set that up sometime. That'd be fun.
We-
as hell.
yeah,
we
you guys all put together a problem, and we'll have an extended issue of the big, where we have a
So
round table of 5 or 6 different problems.
nice.
Probably no after party show for that one.
We'll have an after party show. Ayrton Camp.
God damn it.
That's his thing now. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen,
It
thank you
is.
for hanging out. We got to get the fuck out of here.
We do. I will. Check out coming soon. Music Talk over on my channel, Ayrton McCartney. And good night, everybody. Thank you for showing up.